As they journeyed on, Adogo couldn't help but notice the curious glance from Kene's men. They seemed to be sizing her up, wondering what this princess from Umuri was doing with their prince. Uche noticed her unease and leaned in close. Don't worry, my love, he whispered. You will be safe in Asia, I promised. Adogo smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She trusted Uche with her life. After several hours of riding, they finally arrived at the outskirts of Asia. The kingdom was even more beautiful than Adugo had ever imagined, with towering spires and grand architecture. As they made their way through the bustling streets, Adugo's eyes widened in wonders. She had never seen so many people, so much activities. Uche chuckled, noticing her amazement. Welcome to Asia, he said, his eyes shining with pride. They finally arrived at the palace, a grand structure that seemed to shiver in the sun. Atigos had skipped a bit as Uche helped her down from the horse. Kene stepped forward, his expression serious. Brother, we need to speak to the king, he said. He needs to know about your marriage. Uche nodded. His jaw clenched. I know, he said, but I'm not sure how he will react. Adigo's heart begins to pound in her chest. What would the king say? Would he accept her as Uche's wife? As they entered the palace, Adugo couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. What laid ahead? As they made their way through the palace, Adugo couldn't help but notice the opulent decoration and the bustling activity of the palace staff. She felt a sense of wonder and awe of the grandeur of it all. Uche seemed to sense her unease and took her by her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Don't worry, my love, he whispered. You will get used to it soon. Kede led them to the throne room, where the king sat in all his regal splendor. He was a tall, imposing man with a stern expression, and Adugo felt a shiver run down her spine as he looked at her. Ha, Uche, my son, the king said, his voice deep and commanding. I see you brought your bride. Uche stepped forward, his head high. Father, I want you to meet Adugu, the princess of Umuri. We were married in secret, and I know that you may not approve, but I hope you can see the love we share. The king's expression darkened and he leaned forward, his eyes blazing with anger. You married a princess from Umuri without my permission, he thundered. Do you know the implication of this? The potential consequences? Uche stood tall, his jaw clenched. I know, father, but I couldn't help how I feel. I love Adugu, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. The king's face turned with rage, and he slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne. You will regret this, Uchi, he groaned. You will regret the day you ever disobeyed me. Adogo felt a surge of fear as King's anger seemed to boil over. What happened to Uche? To their marriage? But Uche seemed unfizzled. He stood tall, his eyes locked on his father's. I'm willing to face the consequences, father, he said, but I will not give up on Adugo. She's my wife, and I will do everything in my power to protect her. The king's expression softened slightly, and he looked at Adugo with a hint of curiosity. And what about you, princess? He asked. What do you have to say for yourself? Adugo took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. I love Uche, your majesty, she said, her voice steady. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be with him. The king's expression seemed to soften further, and he nodded thoughtfully. I see, he said. Well, it seems we have a lot to discuss. And with that, the king gestured to a nearby servant, who stepped forward with a bowl. Bring us food and drink, the king said. We will feast and discuss the future of our kingdom. Adogo felt a sense of relief washed over her. Maybe, just maybe, things would work out after all. But as they sat down to eat, Adugo couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the king's words than meets the eye. What did he have planned? And what will happen to her and Uche? As they ate and drank, the king seemed to relax, his expression softening. He asked Adugo questions about her family and her kingdom, and she answered, trying to be very diplomatic as possible. Uche watched the exchange, his eyes narrowing slightly. He knew his father was a master strategist, always thinking several steps ahead. What was he planning? As the meal drew to a close, the king leaned back on his throne, a thoughtful expression on his face. Uche, my son, he said, I must admit, I'm surprised by your choice of bride, but I'm also curious. Uche raised an eyebrow. Intrigued, curious, father, he repeated. The king nodded. Yes, I want to know more about this princess from Umuri. I want to know why you choose her and what you plan to do with her. Adogo felt a surge of unease at the king's words. What did he mean by what do you plan to do with her? Was he implying that Uche had some sort of ulterior motive for marrying her? Uche seemed to sense her unease and he reacted and he reached out her, taking her hands in his. Father, I choose Adugo because I love her, he said, his voice firm, and I plan to make her my queen to rule by my side. The king's expression seemed to darken and he leaned forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. You will do no such thing, Uche, he growled. You will do what is best for Asia and not what is best for your own selfish interest and desire. Adogo felt a shiver run down her spine as the king's words. What did he have planned for Uche and her? As the tension in the room seemed to build, a sudden commotion broke out from the throne room. Shout and scream echoed from the hall, and the king's expression turned from anger to alarm. What is the meaning of this? He thundered, raising from throne. Uche stood up, his eyes locked on his door. I don't know, father, he said, but I think we are about to find out. And with that, the door to the throne room burst open, and a group of armed men stormed in with their sword drawn. Hmm, this is getting really, really interesting. Who do you think those people are? And do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comment section, like, comment, and share. See you in our next video. Bye.